Hey, today we'll get the engine put in here and the lifeboat. It's going to be a bit of a quieter day for me, I think. Just feeling a bit tired. I think my fluid jets here are in the right place. So this is where getting it all balanced is going to be important. I'm just thinking, like, what if I do something like this where it's just two motors directly below it? I want to leave space for at least 3 gearboxes per motor. And the reason for that is just to see how much torque I can really get into the system. I need to find a good way to place the motors though. I don't want to put the furnace too low and then be cutting into any space where I might want to run pipes or something. And I also need space for pumps. Got 5 pistons, 5 medium pistons. I think these should all be spun around the other way. Water in, steam out. All of this front section here is going to be fuel tank below the pistons. There's still a 3 high gap above that. 5 divided by 1 should be 0.2, so if I start at 0.5, the next one should be minus 0.2, so 0.3. Then minus another 0.2 in the opposite direction. So we've got 0.5, 0.3, 0.2, no, 0.5, 0.3, 0.1, then plus 20 on that will be 10 the other direction. And then plus 20 on that again will be 30 the other direction. And that should give me, that should be the correct offset. It looks a bit weird. I don't know, it's spaced out enough that it'd probably work anyway. Got my flywheel. Then I need a generator. I'm just going to use the big generator so that I'm always making more electricity than I need. Battery in the front. This would mean my fuel tank's probably going to stop here. Oh, it'll be before that actually. Kind of a small tank when you think about it, but a lot of this stuff can be moved and probably will be moved. The idea right now is to get the main components put in and then figure out where the weight distribution is. So the only other thing I need is motors. So I think that's kind of the layout. Motors at the back, furnace, boiler, pistons, flywheel, generator, and then we've got a small battery up here which will be trickle charged off the generator because the generator will be directly connected to the motors, and that's the electric system for those. And then the motors go directly to the fluid jets. I might also put a breaker in so that I can emergency connect the main battery into the motors if I ever needed to. The other option might be to put one of these bigger batteries in somewhere. I mean, there is the space for it, that's the thing. It all fits. And it still floats. But I might remove some of the mass to bring it back up so that the bottom of this stairway is still above the water line. I think that would be a good idea. You can see it's kind of leaning forwards a bit more as well, and that's probably because of that battery in the front. So I will put some barrels in the back, try and bring some mass towards the rear. I think that was too much, which is interesting. So what I'm looking at is like using the stripes and the ladders to see how level they are with the water. If they're pretty level, like if that stripe was above the water at the back and the front, then I would just call it pretty level. And it seems like it's there right now. And then if we just say, well, this boat weighs 8,000 mass, and I want to make it light enough that it can float above the stairs, above the stairway, I'm going to XML this rocket booster on the back to be negative 4,000. So I don't know if that's cutting it in half, the mass, but I want to bring it up so that you don't see any water spilling in. It seems like it's floating okay, but to really test it, I'm going to connect the motors to the fluid jets. So they'll have to go down and around. Bit of a pain. The easy thing I think is to just flip the motors and then push them back one. It's going to offset the weight a little bit. But it also lets me go down and then probably right into the base would be a good way to do it. And then come straight back up. The reason for that is I want to put gearboxes the other way? No, this way. So now I just need to figure out where the water is. I think I took away the fluid jets that I had on the top, so I need to re-add those. That was pretty lucky. I just want to keep these pipes as built into the walls as possible so that it doesn't really interfere with anything else I'm doing. And I'm going to try and block off a lot of these areas so that there's no funny subgrids if I can help it, or there's no bad physics shapes if I can help it. And then this pipe will just come along the side and splice in here on both sides. So we'll have water, we've got power. I don't think the seat's connected to anything. It seems a lot heavier in the front now, because I did remove some barrels to fit this stuff in here, so putting some more barrels back in should be okay. It's probably too light now if it's doing this. Or that's just too much power for it. I think I'll try and hook up a roll and pitch stabilizer. Can't remember which one is which. Oh, this is the one I wanted. So it's got a left fluid jet and a right fluid jet. It's got a bunch of old... These are all old inverters. Yeah, it's got roll and pitch combined. It's tuned for a much bigger boat, I think. So yeah, it's a bit wobbly, but that's okay. Yeah, this is the kind of performance I want, where it's just going to be pretty easy to just set it and let it go. I'm just going to connect my speed sensors up. So this goes to the dial, this goes to speed sensor. I I can't remember which one to change these to, but I think it's directional. I'll go knots. Keep in mind that because we're using infinite electricity, this is going to be probably slower in the final version. But it's still a pretty good speed, like 38 knots, 40 knots. It was going up to 50 on launch, so it might be able to go a little bit faster. But at the very least, it is reliable in the fact that I shouldn't be able to roll it at all. I might turn on the wind and see if I can get it flipped. So I want to flip it without the wind trying to push it back up so that see if the weight will just want to roll itself back over. Seems like it wants to just self-right on its own, so that's good. I'm not sure why I don't hear any motors spinning. Usually you hear those motors. There's also the potential that it's sucking in air and that's causing it to do some funny things. So there's no buoyancy being added using pivot glitches on this, it's just the negative weight coming from this rocket booster nozzle. It might be that I want to lower the amount of removed weight and then add some pivots in here somewhere to glitch it out, but that can be figured out later because I think this is a good enough system for balancing it. So I just need to connect all the pipes now. I also need a condenser though. 250 mass, so that's quite a big chunk of weight to be missing right now. That's where it's going. It's a little bit front heavy. Yeah, that's not too bad. I don't really mind. As long as there's no water coming in through the door, because just that like visual animation of water coming through doors kind of annoys me. The fact that it's not jumping like it was before makes me think it's probably better stabilized or better balanced now, so that the stabilizer isn't having to do as much work. It sort of finds a default trim and it stays very close to it. It has tilted forwards just now when I was stopping though. Yeah, it's a little bit slow to level back out, so I think it needs more weight in the back. Okay, so I guess I'll connect everything up. I'm still not convinced that this is where the fuel input should be. It is really easy to access being there though. Could get rid of maybe a little piece of this and hide it in here maybe. I think if I were going to put it up here, I could like push it in and then use some wedges. Do something like that. It could actually look quite interesting. I like how this piece came in for the anchor, so perhaps it's worth trying something else. Maybe if I extend it to 3. I actually think that's way more functional. I won't have anywhere really good to put my hose that's down here. But because it's like right where the ladder is, I didn't even plan for that. But that makes it really easy to just sort of go straight up and connect. And I think it also blends really well into this area. Yeah, I think I'll do this. And then I'll have to flip the side that the hose is on because I can't go into this paint block. In which case I should flip the side that the arrows are on. I want the arrows to be as close to the fuel input as possible. And then from there it needs to snake around. Come back through the middle. Somehow find its way down. Down a wall? Down a wall. Where is a wall that is going below deck? I could do that. I could... Depends what this is doing. So let's have a spawn. Let's have a look at this dash. See, the angle on that is basically 45, so I don't think it is 45. It might be more like... If I do a 45, it might look a bit better though. Oh, it is a 45, but then it's got a 1x2 wedge on the bottom that kind of gives it this goofy, like, sticking out business. So I guess that's what I do, and then the pipe goes through that bit there. I would like my fuel pumps and my override valve to all be accessible from somewhere. I'm not sure how I'm going to get below deck, or if there is even a need to be below deck. I guess repairs would be a lot easier if you can get down here somehow. But it is like a very tight space. You're not going to be able to just shimmy your way around. The lifeboat should have been like your last ditch effort, and if that's broken, then you're just sort of, you're really done. I'm just looking at this back wall, thinking the pumps would fit nicely there. Like this. This could be a hatch, to be honest. Oh, it kind of removes my little banner thing, my little stripe of grey around the bottom though. What if it were in the floor? You can still drop down in the floor. Is that okay? I think with enough like ramps and platforms and things to help you kind of navigate, then having this kind of hatch makes it's an okay solution. But then what I was getting at is, do I want my pumps to be just here because that makes them really easy to access? It's a little bit odd having something so mechanical in such a clean space. You know, there's nothing weird in here. It would be better to put the pumps out on the deck somewhere. Maybe that's what sort of the rear section can be for. I'm sort of thinking, can I place them like this and then stretch a wedge over them, or can I hide them somewhere that's kind of in the deck, not in the deck, in the wall, not in the wall? Somewhere easy to weld, but also kind of hidden away. It's kind of important to know where I want to put the fuel pumps now, because they have to splice in through this line somewhere within this path. See, that path has got to have like motors and drive lines and stuff on it. Also, I've got to send fluid ports up, and I think I'll put them under there. One of these is for air and one of these is for exhaust. I think they come through here. So both of these just kind of need to go down. There's not going to be anything real complicated about this one. I think I'll just shoot them straight up and then split them off. The air pipe needs a valve. This is where maybe like doing some pipe bending could look kind of nice. Maybe not, that doesn't look very nice. Well, that's pretty easy. It goes up. Then it will have to go across. Back one. Across. Okay, this is actually not good. This is... Ugh. Oh, it can't even make that path. All the wedges are like terminating on the very tips. One solution is to push the whole rear section, these pyramids and the window, bring it back so it's on this line here. Leave the interior where it is, and then that gives me a windowsill or a space on the end of the bed. It means I'd have to move this port and get rid of the handle. There doesn't appear to be any other way that actually goes up. Everywhere else is like the back of a wedge. Yeah, that port has to move to the next one along, which isn't so bad because I've got the pipe space for it. This bit gets a bit longer, which kind of sucks because then the pipe's not going right to the end of it. This handle has to go so that this wedge can come back, this pyramid can come back. This wedge needs to stay where it is. And then I can get rid of that. So that gives me, you know, like this pipe, basically. This bit of block. I might make it do that. And then I don't have to worry about sort of like the decorative aspects too much of where that pipe length goes to. And that's pretty symmetrical on both sides. So one will be exhaust and one will be air. It doesn't really look too different either. Like you can't really tell that it's a little bit longer. Not ideal, but close enough. So that's the fluid both connected. I'm missing my motors, which I guess go in there. Fluid is connected top and bottom. This is the fuel valve for the furnace. We've got condenser pumping back. There's no coolant on the condenser. There's not much space up here. I'm going to try and fill in as much of the funny gaps, but I think I've got to leave some walkways. So I'm thinking like, how can I get these pipes to drop down somewhere without really blocking anything? And how can I make sure that they stay in the water, these fluid jets, or these fluid ports? I think that's it. What happened here? This didn't connect. I think that's everything except getting these motors connected, and this is a fun problem. Now my fuel line is very much in the way, which isn't too bad because I can run it right across to the side like it is on the other one. And then maybe I just put the pumps down here because the tank is coming up in the middle, so it's actually only on the side where it really matters. That is exactly where my hatch is. I'm just going to leave that disconnected for now. That's not really a big one. And that turned out okay. I've got my fluid meter on the left here, and then the fluid spawner on the right. If I turn off infinite electricity and infinite fuel, this should work. So basically I need to go from this generator to these two motors. And then I'll go from the big battery. I think I'll probably get rid of that smaller battery or use it as a backup battery. And then all of the pumps, valves, all of this stuff up here, equipment or electronics. I think it's hooked up without infinite fuel and infinite electricity. It should run, but I think I'm missing my add-on for, oh, there's a hole in the floor. I'm missing my add-on for the fuel things over here, so, oh, it's loud. That's pretty cool. It's moving under its own power now. Throttle up. One throttle, 36 knots. So that's pretty good because on infinite electricity, I was doing 38 knots, slowing down a little bit. But that means that the gearing is all pretty correct. I might be able to make the generator spin a little bit faster if I put more gearboxes in. I'm not sure what the limits of that are. 34. I think that's pretty good, you know, for this kind of boat with so much of it under the water and wanting to have a lot of it under the water. The stabilizer needs some tuning because it is not happy about this. I might also put a wheel brake on the motors. If I dump it down to 0, does it suddenly stop? Because the flywheel is still spinning the generator, but I'm telling them electric motors to stop. So the fluid jet should stop. Okay, so that's not too bad. Most of my other problem with going direct drive of the steam is because the flywheels are continuously running after I've told it to stop. I don't know why it's doing this. But at least it's self-righting pretty easily. I think a clamp on the fluid jet's pitch would be really good. Just let it tilt a tiny little bit and then do the majority of the pitch control with the fins that I've put on the front. There's little fins there. I think I'll make the throttle a bit more sensitive. It actually seems like I don't even need to go... yeah, maybe I need to get up to like 8 before I really hit the top speed. Well, this is technically working now, I guess. Like, I could go and use this. Things that I'm missing off it that I would like are diving spotlights. I found that's been really useful on the rib. Maybe some spotlights and some deck lights. I've got to put light switches and stuff on the inside as well. Like, I've got the lights, but I don't have the light switches. Yeah. I could just start using them. And the idea with this is that I can use it from an early point in career, but then it can also be placed on the back of any larger vessels. So it can actually work as a lifeboat. You can just chuck it on the back of a big ship, and if the big ship goes down, just hop into this and you can make it back. That's the problem. Yeah, this has turned out really well. I think I'll do some tweaks tomorrow. I'll do some tweaks off camera maybe, and then take it into career and see how it really performs. I should have enough money to spawn this. And it'll be good to see how much this can tow because it's fluid jets on electric motors, so there's a lot of torque. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.